All right, good morning, people of YouTube. So we are back again today with another deck profile in the EX3 meta. This time we have DarkKnightmon. So this is a deck that I also underestimated going into the BT10 meta. I think this deck is a lot better than people give it credit for. A lot of people write it off as a tier 3 deck, and I think those people are definitely sleeping on it and will probably change their tune if they actually play against this in a regional or anything, because this deck actually has a high chance to just clap some of the top contenders in the meta. So we will go over some of the card choices, what makes this deck so great, and if you guys could, make sure you guys like and subscribe, and we will go ahead and start with the Digitama. So for the Digitama, we got 4 copies of the BT6 Pagu, the on deletion reveal, and if the black Digimon at its hand. Unfortunately, this is still one of the best eggs that we can play. Black just hasn't had a lot of good eggs. But the potential to add a Digimon to hand in a deck that needs Digimon as combo pieces is pretty nice. And since we are playing a lot of Digimon, and I do play against some security control in my local meta, I am playing 5 eggs. I've elected to play the Hotmon. This card gives me plus 1,000 if I have a black Tamer in play. So the BT10 Monomon is not really good in this deck because it doesn't work with the old DarkKnightmon. Where this just, if I have Nene in play, then this card will trigger. So I do like this. If you don't want to play 5 eggs, just play the 4 Paku. But go ahead and put those there. For the level 3s, we got one of the best level 3s in black ever printed. We got the Chikurimon from BT6, the security trigger Digivolve. There are a lot of matchups that just don't want to hit this in security, and if you draw it, then you just Digivolve it in your raising area. So having a security trigger that acts as a body that you can jump security with if you have it in your hand is really nice. I don't think I would cut this card down at all. Next, we got 2 copies of Chumon to block memory gain in the form of like memory boosts and stuff because people are playing a lot of those. This is a card that you could argue you could play more of. I play 4 copies of the Chikurimon from Starter Deck 13. The reason for this is because Blue Flare is one of your worst matchups, and you want to be able to prevent the Metal Greymon from coming down for cheap. So the Chikurimon helps with that. Also, Death Xmon really hurts this deck. So if you run into a situation where you look at your board and you go, man, a Death X would really lose me the game here, you can just hard play this to end your turn, and that option is taken away from your opponent. So I do really like this card, and I think 4 of it is kind of mandatory, specifically for this deck and for the matchups that it faces. So for the last level 3 in the deck, I'm playing 4 copies of the BT10 Monotomon. So this card is the best Monotomon by far. The BT7 Monotomon only reveals 3 and adds, I think, 1. This card reveals 4 and just can add the Tamer, anything with Twilight, and it adds 2. So this card is just your generic good searcher. And if I were going to bump any of the rookies up, it'd actually be the Chumon before adding the BT7 Monotomon. But this is the only searcher we really need because we play a bunch in the level 4s as well. So going into that searcher in the level 4, we play 4 copies of Deadly Axemon. This card is a combo piece, as well as it has a Bonkers inheritable, which says on your turn you get plus 2,000, which is just great. And then on play, you reveal 5, and you add up to 2 cards with Knightmon in their name to your hand. So this card searches your level 5s, your level 6s, and the rest of your level 4s, as well as being a Deadly Axemon name, which you need for the combo. So the other name you need for the combo is Skull Knightmon. We play 4 copies of the BT7 one. This card feels a little bit weaker, but it does have the neat attack, or when attacking effect, that lets you just slap this card under the Skull Knightmon or any of the other level 4s that we're playing, because they all substitute names. And then we can make this Digivolve straight into a DarkKnightmon without paying the cost. So then you will trigger the inheritable to give yourself security attack +1. making your swing just really good, really free. And because you're not spending memory going into the DarkKnightmon with this, you can then go into the DarkKnightmon X to pass turn, or play one of these floodgates. So I do really like this card. It is something that we do want to see coming up in the raising area. And both of these get played whenever we are deleting our DarkKnightmon. So having the on play with the Deadly Axemon is actually really pivotal because this will trigger off of most of those effects. So I play 4 and 4, and then for the rest of them, I play 4 copies of Mighty Axe mode and 1 copy of Cavalier mode. So Mighty Axe mode counts as both of these names, and it has a neat Digicross that can pop level 4s sometimes. That's mostly irrelevant, but it does have a neat on play as well that lets me search in addition to the Deadly Axemon. And instead of going to the bottom of the deck, the cards go to trash, which can help set up future plays later. The only reason I'm playing 1 Cavalier mode is because I wanted a 5th name in the deck that's substituted. Because if you draw doubles of either of these, you can't do the DarkKnightmon Jawgrass. But if you open one of these plus any of these, then that play becomes live. So you get Wind Digivolving on this card, you get Jamming and Blocker, which is mostly irrelevant. It's mostly just in here for the other name and to be another target for Pride Memory Boost. But that's it for the level 4s. I'm not playing any hybrids. You want to be just aggroing your opponent, having a bunch of rookies in play and going into the DarkKnightmon and then closing out the game relatively early with a wide board and 1 Digimon that can check multiple security. So you do have the DarkKnightmon X as fallback, and that is one of the key power plays that this deck got access to, making it, I think, a lot better. Because all of these cards just are good by themselves, but now this deck has a backbone. So part of that backbone comes as the new BT10 DarkKnightmon. This card has a great Digicross for any Skull Knightmon and any Deadly Axe mode. Again, these cards substitute. And then whenever you play this card, you de-Digivolve 1 on one of your opponent's Digimon. Then if Digicrossing with 2 cards, you can delete one of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 5 or less. So this is removal, but also, if it would be deleted, you take a level 4 lower black Digimon and put it back into your hand, and then you get to play a Skull Knightmon or a Deadly Axemon from your sources. So you get to recycle a source and play a source. So you can recycle this so that you can put it back in the raising area and promote it on the next turn, and then play the Deadly Axemon and get more searches. And this DarkKnightmon is just pretty much exactly what the deck needed. It gives you another level 5 aggressor that is just, in most ways, better than the BT7 DarkKnightmon. Speaking of which, we do play 3 copies of the BT7 DarkKnightmon as well. This card has another break apart effect, like whenever it would be deleted, you just get to play you get to play a Skull Knightmon and a Deadly Axe from your sources. And that's really nice. But also, you have the ability to just play this card and then tuck a Skull Knightmon and a Deadly Axe from your trash underneath this card. Which, again, is why I said is relevant with the Mighty Axe mode, trashing the cards. This DarkKnightmon right here is the best card to play off of your DarkKnightmon X's on deletion effect, which is the reason we are playing 3 of it. We do want to get one of these in trash relatively early. And then if we can't have the option to build into raising, that is also nice. But the best level 5 in the deck by far is the DarkKnightmon from BT10. So for the level 6 in the deck, I'm just playing 1. I'm playing 3 copies of DarkKnightmon X Antibody. You don't need to play 4 of this card. Playing 4 will clump in your hand, and you have the optional recursion with the mat. You can play Calling from Darkness if you want, but I elect not to. DarkKnightmon X, when Digivolving, you get to take a black or purple Digimon card other than a copy of this from your trash and put it in your hand. Then if you have DarkKnightmon or X Antibody in your sources, you can delete a Tamer, which is very important. And then you get to unsuspend this Digimon. So this card helps pick off the Kirihas in the Blue Flare matchup and the Sora and Joes which is arguably more important. And it helps in a lot of situations. But mostly, it's just really cool having a big level 6 that can swing for a couple checks off of the Skull-Knightmon inheritable. And then if you die, then you just go back into DarkKnightmon and then put these two under it. And it's really nice. The Wind Digivolving effect to pop Tamers, like, we only really have this in Black or Greymon, and so this deck actually serves a niche in that. But this is just a good boss monster, and it's a welcome addition to the deck. Next, I played 2 copies of DefXmon. I think 2 is mandatory. I really want to play 3, but there is a couple flex spots in the end of the deck that we will kind of go over. But this is just really good for decks that are trying to do wide boards back to you, or decks that sit up a bunch of Tamers. So you are trying to rush them down. So if you can play one of these, or possibly even 2 of these for cheap, and kind of control their board while putting out a bunch of aggression, that's what the deck wants to be doing anyway. So this is playing to your strengths. In addition, it is a black and purple card, so you can evolve it off the DarkKnightmon X, and because it is a purple card, you can pull it back with a mat as well. So this is really nice. So going on to the Tamers, I got 1 Izzy and 1 Mat for my Memory Tamers. So sometimes you just want to play a Memory Tamer early game, in which case you have the Izzy because it will let you stack your deck, and most of the time this is coming out for 3. This Mat is the only non-black card in the deck. So 49 out of 50 of your targets in this are Izzy requirements. But Mat can also add back your option card, it can add back the Death X, and it can add back the DarkKnightmon X antibody. Those are your only targets, and sometimes you need to recur those cards. Maybe you trashed one off of Mighty Axe mode, and then you have the Mat in hand so that you can kind of get a double grab off of this card. Mat just serves a purpose in the deck, and I think the 1-in-1 split is something that I'm a big fan of. Next, we have 3 copies of Nene. I don't think you need 4. Most of the time, you're going to want to be popping your opponent's Tamers. This has a neat on-deletion effect to gain 2 memory that you can trigger yourself with your own DarkKnightmon X, but I don't like that. Most of the time, I'd rather just be setting my opponent back. Most of the time, they're playing Tamers because they're good. So popping this isn't that great, but you really want to see at least one of it, so that all of your cards get blocker, which is fantastic. As a 3-cost Tamer, giving your line blocker is superb. So I do like this card, and I like this Tamer lineup. The thing is space in this deck is a little bit tight, so I think this is ideal for me. I see a lot of people bumping Nene up to 3 because it is another searcher, but if you were going to do that, I'd rather just play more Deadly Axemon. I mean, I'm maxing out on 4, but a lot of those players are only playing 3, which, you know, maybe there is a reason for that, but I don't see it. Going on to the options, we got 2 copies of Immortal Ruler. So this card has been a point of contention for DarkKnightmon X players for, pretty much since DarkKnightmon X came out. And I think this card is really good. So basically what this does is it lets you digicross with cards in your trash, which lets you maintain hand advantage. So if something goes wrong, you basically gave up your hand to lose your board state. Like, let's say you hit Megadeth or something in security, because these effects only work on deletion. So you want to keep those cards in your hands so that you can reestablish your board. And Immortal Ruler serves as all of the pieces for that. So it doesn't really do anything that the deck couldn't do by itself, but maintaining hand advantage is very important. Next, we got 3 copies of Pride Memory Boost. Again, I see a lot of people playing 4 copies of this card because it is a good memory boost and it can play any of your level 4s or 3s from the top of your deck. I'm just not lucky. Even with 27 hits, sometimes I will whiff on this, and it feels really bad. So there are a lot of times that I just rather play a level 4 from my hand if I just need consistency. If I'm already in a state where I need to take a risk, or just having the memory boost would be beneficial for later, then this is good to play in hand, and having 3 of it will still ensure that you draw it. but I don't think you need 4 of this card, especially if you want to make this deck as consistent as possible. If you want to high roll your opponent, just play 4 of this, but that ain't me. So the last 2 cards in the deck are the flex slots that I was talking about. I'm playing 1 Ultimate Flare and 1 Iron Fisted Onslaught to kind of show you guys these options. I want to play some form of removal in this deck. Ultimate Flare is better into decks like Melga and Examon, and Iron Fisted Onslaught is better into decks against decks like Grandis, and like I guess this is also pretty good against Melga, but these are both just good options, good deletion effects. You could play 2 of one of these. You could play 1 of these and then bump DefX up to 3. But these are total flex slots. I really like having some amount of security bombs against the decks that do kind of pull out a raising and kind of give this deck a hard time sometimes. Having them feels good, but they are kind of win more cards sometimes. These can be whatever you want, but these other 48 cards I think are pretty much non-negotiable, at least in my version of the deck. And yeah, we got 2 other cards here that I want to show you. One of them is the 3rd Death X, because I really believe in 3 Death X in this deck, and the other is X Antibody. So this is a cute option that you could decide to play. What it does will allow you to attack with the Dark Knight and then go into the X Antibody Dark Knight during the attack, which will trigger your when Digivolving effect, which could create some interesting interactions. I don't think it's overly necessary, but I did want to include it in the deck profile just to give you guys the idea. But that's all I got to say about this deck. You've listened to me ramble long enough. If you made it this far, definitely like and subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next video. Bye, everyone.